Commander Tyke stepped into the massive council chamber, his boots echoing against the crystalline floor. The hall stretched for miles, filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Floating platforms held delegates whose forms defied imagination, beings of pure energy. Insectoid creatures with razor-sharp mandibles, and towering giants whose skin resembled living metal. At the center of the chamber, a holographic projector hummed to life. Earth appeared in stunning detail, rotating slowly like a precious blue jewel. Tyke's eyes focused on the planet's surface, scanning for any sign of advanced civilization. What he saw made his stomach churn with confusion. "Honor delegates." Tyke's voice boomed through the chamber's translation matrix. "I present our intelligence report on the Sol 3 system, designation Earth." The hologram zoomed in, showing primitive satellites orbiting the planet. Tiny metal constructs barely larger than storage containers drifted through space, their solar panels glinting weakly in the star's light. The delegates leaned forward, expecting to see some hidden marvel of engineering. Instead, they witnessed something that made no sense. "These are their most advanced orbital installations," Tyke continued, his voice heavy with disbelief. "Chemical propulsion systems that take months to reach their own moon. Nuclear weapons that can barely crack a city. Their fastest spacecraft moves at a fraction of light speed." Ambassador Joran of the Hegemony rose from his platform, his 7-foot frame covered in scales that shifted from green to deep purple. When he was agitated, right now, they were almost black. "This is impossible," Joran's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "My empire has avoided this system for over 10,000 years. My grandfather's grandfather spoke of Earth in whispers. He said approaching that world meant certain death." His clawed hands gestured at the hologram. "Yet look at this pathetic display. They're still burning fossil fuels for energy. Their weapons are metal projectiles, fired by controlled explosions. A single hegemony destroyer could conquer their entire planet in an afternoon." Murmurs rippled through the chamber as other delegates began sharing their own experiences. The spider-like arachnid queen clicked her mandibles rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "The Great Web speaks of Sol 3 in the old hunting songs," she hissed. "When young hunters ask to claim prey from that system, the elders always refuse. They say the third planet is cursed." From across the chamber, Delegate Voss chimed in perfect harmony. The crystalline collective's representative looked like a living mountain of precious gems, each facet reflecting the chamber's lights and hypnotic patterns. "Our war singers have carried the same message for 300 generations." Voss's voice resonated like music. "The song is always the same beyond the yellow star. Death sleeps in blue waters. Let the sleepers dream, lest the dreamers wake." The chamber fell silent. The crystalline collective's war songs were legendary throughout the galaxy. They had never been wrong about a threat, never failed to predict danger. If their singers warned against Earth for thousands of years, there had to be a reason. Todd manipulated the hologram controls, zooming out to show Earth's entire solar system. "Notice what's missing," he said quietly. "No defense platforms, no mining stations on the asteroids, no military bases on the outer planets. This system is completely undefended." "Then why," boomed General Corax of the Iron Legion, his cybernetic voice crackling with static, "has every military power in the galaxy avoided it?" The Iron Legion was known for their aggression. It had conquered 12 systems in the past century alone, their war machines crushing any resistance. If even they refused to approach Earth, something was terribly wrong. An uncomfortable silence settled over the chamber. Then, from the shadows at the far end of the hall, a figure emerged that made every delegate freeze in terror. A Void Hunter. The creature glided forward on silent tentacles, its form shifting between dimensions. Void Hunters were the galaxy's most feared mercenaries. They hunted prey across multiple realities, tracked enemies through time itself. There was no contract they wouldn't take, no target they couldn't kill. "You want to know about the third planet?" The hunter's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "My brotherhood has existed for 50 million years. We have hunted gods and devoured stars. We fear nothing in this reality or any other. The hunter's form solidified slightly, revealing what might have been a face. But we will not go to Sol 3. When young hunters ask why, we tell them only this: some things should remain buried. Some graves should never be disturbed. The creature began to fade back into the shadows. The humans believe they are alone in the universe. They search the stars for signs of life, wondering if anyone else exists. Let them wonder. Let them believe. They are the only intelligence in the cosmos. Why? Tyke called out desperately. The Void Hunter paused at the edge of darkness. Because the alternative is extinction. Not just for them, for all of us. With that, the hunter vanished completely, leaving behind only the faint scent of ozone. And the echo of words that chilled every being in the chamber. The council erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted questions, demanded answers, threatened investigations. But underneath the noise, a single thought echoed in every mind. What secret could be so terrible that even the Void Hunters feared it? Archivist Nari floated in the vast data chamber, her 8 tentacles moving with practiced grace across the ancient storage crystals. Each crystal contained millions of years of galactic history, the collected memories of entire civilizations. The chamber itself was a marvel, walls of pure energy held back. The vacuum of space while quantum processors hummed with the power of a small star. She had been searching for 3 days straight, her bioluminescent patches flickering with exhaustion. The Council's request seemed simple enough. Find out why every empire avoided Earth. But what she discovered made her skin crawl with dread. The first breakthrough came from the Udak Empire's military archives. Nari's tentacles traced the crystalline surface as holographic records materialized around her. The Udak were savage warriors who had conquered half the galaxy through sheer brutality. Their battle records were detailed, boastful, and complete. Except for one operation, Imperial Fleet, Gamma 7. Nari read aloud, her voice echoing in the empty chamber. Destination, Sol System. Objective, resource acquisition and territorial expansion. Fleet composition, 2,000 heavy cruisers, 500 dreadnoughts, 1 million ground assault troops. The record showed the massive fleet departing from Udak Prime. Ship after ship emerged from hyperspace, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons and particle beams. Each vessel was the size of a city, capable of turning entire planets into molten slag. Then, abruptly, the record stopped. A single line appeared. Operation terminated by direct order of Emperor Vashtar. All vessels recalled immediately. Reason: classified beyond Imperial clearance. This file is sealed by blood oath. Nari's tentacles trembled. The Udak never retreated. They were known across the galaxy for fighting to the last warrior, for preferring death to dishonor. What could have made them abandon such a massive invasion? She dove deeper into the archives, accessing memory banks that hadn't been touched. For millennia, the silicon-based Keth Collective's records were stored in living crystal matrices that pulsed with their own inner light. The Keth were ancient beyond measure, their collective consciousness spanning millions of individual minds. They communicated through harmonic resonance, their thoughts creating music that could be heard across star systems. Their memory banks were usually perfect, containing every detail of their billion-year history, but their Earth files were fragmented, broken as if someone had deliberately shattered them with a hammer. Fragment 001, Nari whispered as the damaged data scrolled past her. The sleepers must not wake. Catastrophic failure. Reality breach in 17 dimensions. Fragment 018, the price of awakening. Entire star systems ... burning. Screaming in the void ... Fragment 227, never again the burning stars. We were wrong ... so very wrong. The humans are not. The fragment cut off there, the rest of the data corrupted beyond recovery. But what chilled Nari most was the harmonic signature attached to each fragment. The Keth's musical thoughts were usually beautiful, complex symphonies that could bring tears to a listener's eyes. These fragments were screaming. The harmonic patterns were jagged, discordant, filled with terror so pure it made Nari's bioluminescent patches flash in distress. Whatever the Keth had experienced, It had damaged their collective consciousness so badly they had been forced to fragment their own memories to survive. But the most disturbing discovery came from the Void Hunters' archives. Accessing their files required special permission from the Council itself. The Void Hunters were not just mercenaries. They were predators from outside normal space-time. Beings who hunted across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their archives contained the death records of gods, the final moments of extinct civilizations, the last breaths of universe-eating entities. Nair expected their Earth files to be massive, detailed, filled with the cold analysis of expert killers. Instead, she found 7 words that made her heart stop beating. The response protocol. Do not engage. Ever. That was it. 7 words from beings who had hunted across 50 million years, who had never met a prey they couldn't kill. 7 words that carried the weight of absolute terror. But there was more. Hidden beneath the main file, Nari found fragments of older records. Pieces of reports from Void Hunters who had tried to investigate Earth in the distant past. Hunter Prime Zathik reports, approached Sol 3 perimeter. Detected massive quantum disturbances. Reality fabric unstable. Recommend immediate withdrawal. Hunter Epsilon Morax reports, attempted dimensional breach near 3rd planet. Something responded. My hunting pack is gone. I am the only survivor. The humans... They are not what they appear to be. Final report, Hunter Alpha Vorthok. The response has begun. The sleepers are stirring. Stars are dying in impossible ways. Physics itself is breaking down. We should never have come here. We should never have. File-corrupted Neris's research pattern became clear. Every major civilization had tried to investigate or conquer Earth at some point in their history. The Makari hegemony sent exploration fleets that never returned. The Quantum Syndicate deployed reality-warping weapons that simply vanished. The entropy cults tried to sacrifice Earth to their dark gods and found themselves sacrificed instead. In every case, the pattern was identical. Massive military force deployed, sudden communications blackout, and then silence. The few survivors who made it back spoke of something called the response before losing their sanity completely. Most disturbing of all, Nari discovered that the attacks weren't random. They followed a pattern every few million years. Some civilization would forget the warnings and attempt to claim Earth. Each time, the response would activate, and galactic civilization would be set back by millennia. The last recorded attempt was by the Silicon Dominion 3 million years ago. They had been the most advanced civilization the galaxy had ever seen, masters of technology that could rewrite the laws of physics. They had built a fleet of reality breakers, ships that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The Silicon Dominion no longer existed. Their worlds were empty, their cities turned to glass, their technology reduced to quantum foam. Few archaeological expeditions that had tried to study their ruins had reported the same thing. Everything had been unmade not by weapons, but by something that had simply decided they shouldn't exist. Nari finally understood why the galaxy feared Earth. It wasn't because humans were powerful, it was because something was protecting them. Something ancient, patient, and utterly merciless. Something that would allow civilizations to rise and fall. Would watch empires spread across the stars. Would never permit harm to come to one small blue planet, as she prepared her report. For the Council, Nari noticed something that made her blood freeze. Deep in the archives, new files were being created. Automated systems were updating threat assessments, marking Earth as status monitored. For the first time in 3 million years, the response was waking up. Admiral Yoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the stars streak past as they prepared to drop out of hyperspace. His weathered face showed the scars of countless battles, but his eyes burned with determination. The whispers and legends had haunted him for too long. Today, he would learn the truth about Earth. Admiral called out Navigation Officer Sung from his station. We're approaching the Sol System perimeter, dropping to sublight in 30 seconds. Yoon nodded grimly. Behind him, his crew worked with nervous efficiency. They all knew this mission. was unauthorized, forbidden by the highest levels of Galactic Command. But Yoon had handpicked these officers for their loyalty and courage. Sir, Lieutenant Kang spoke up from the weapons console. Our escorts are reporting ready. The Swift Arrow and Iron Fist are maintaining formation. 3 ships against the unknown. It seemed laughable, but Yoon had chosen his vessels carefully. Each scout ship was equipped with the most advanced sensors in the Talon fleet, capable of detecting energy signatures across multiple dimensions. If Earth held any secrets, they would find them, dropping out of hyperspace, Al-Sung announced. Stars suddenly stopped moving, replaced by the gentle glow of a yellow star in the distance. Yoon's breath caught in his throat as he saw it. A small blue planet, third from the sun, hanging in space like a precious jewel. Begin deep scans, Yoon ordered. I want to know everything about that world. Energy signatures, defensive installations, hidden bases. Leave no stone unturned. Communications Officer Hannah bent over her console, her fingers dancing across the controls. Admiral, I'm detecting primitive radio transmissions from the planet. Music, news broadcasts, something called television signals. It's also peaceful. Captain Day stepped beside Yoon, studying the tactical display. Sir, our sensors show no orbital weapons platforms, no energy shields, no signs of advanced technology at all. This doesn't make sense. Yoon frowned. Keep scanning. There has to be something we're missing. For 2 hours, the 3 ships conducted the most thorough scan in galactic history. They analyzed every moon, every asteroid, every piece of space, debris in the system. They probed the planet itself with quantum sensors. Searching for hidden bases or underground installations, they found nothing. Earth appeared to be exactly what it seemed, a primitive world inhabited by a young species that had barely learned to leave their own atmosphere. Their most advanced weapons were crude nuclear devices that couldn't even destroy a single city completely. Their fastest ships took months to reach their own moon. This is impossible, Yoon muttered. There has to be an explanation. That's when Hannah's voice cracked with disbelief. Sir, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures. Multiple fleets dropping out of hyperspace all around us. The main display lit up with warning signals as ship after ship materialized in the void around them. Yoon's blood ran cold as he recognized the massive dreadnoughts of the hegemony, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons. Behind them came the crystalline ships of the collective, their surfaces reflecting starlight like mirrors. Admiral. Day's voice was barely a whisper. The Void Hunters are emerging from dark space. Yoon had never seen a Void Hunter ship before. Few beings had, and lived to tell about it. The vessels seemed to exist partially outside normal reality, their edges blurred and shifting. They moved without engines, turned without thrusters, defied every law of physics he understood. How many ships? Yoon asked, though he dreaded the answer. Counting. Sir, I'm reading over 10,000 vessels. Every major power in the galaxy is represented. The entropy cults, the machine hegemony, the quantum syndicate, even species we don't have names for. The tactical display showed the incredible sight, ancient enemies flying in perfect formation. Their weapons powered down but ready. Zephyrian Armada positioned themselves alongside the brutal Udak war fleets. The peaceful Harmony Collective flew wing to wing with the savage Bone Reapers. They're not here to fight each other, Day realized with growing horror. They're here for us. Hannah's voice shook as she monitored the communications channels. Sir, we're receiving thousands of transmissions, all saying the same thing: withdraw immediately. Do not approach the third planet. This is your only warning. Yoon watched in amazement as the massive fleet arranged itself in concentric circles around Earth. The outer ring consisted of the most powerful dreadnoughts, their weapons aimed not at the planet but outward at his small scouting force. The inner rings were filled with support vessels, medical ships, and command carriers. They're protecting Earth, he whispered. All of them, working together. Admiral Sung called out urgently. I'm detecting new arrivals. Something big is coming. The space around them rippled like water as something massive emerged from a dimension that shouldn't exist. It was larger than a moon. its surface covered in weapons that hurt to look at directly. Ancient symbols pulsed with malevolent light. Along its hull, "That's a Void Hunter mothership," Day breathed. "I didn't even know they existed." More ships continued to arrive. Vessels from the galactic core, species that had never been seen in Council space. Robot fleets controlled by artificial minds older than most civilizations. Living ships that breathed plasma and fed on starlight. All of them had come to prevent 3 small scout ships from approaching. Earth. A new voice crackled through the communications system, speaking in the ancient tongue of the First Empire. "Admiral Yoon of the Talon Fleet, you have 30 seconds to begin your withdrawal from this system. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination." Yoon looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were terrified, but they trusted him. Hannah was already plotting a course out of the system. Sung had his hands on the hyperspace controls. Even Day, his most loyal friend, was nodding toward the exit. Sir Hannah whispered, "I'm detecting energy buildup from the fleet. They're charging weapons." On the display, Earth continued to rotate peacefully. Its blue oceans and white clouds completely unaware of the cosmic drama playing out in their system. Somewhere down there, humans were going about their daily lives, working, playing, dreaming of the stars. They had no idea that every major power in the galaxy was willing to go to war just to keep them safe. Admiral Day said quietly, "We need to leave now." Yoon took one last look at the mysterious planet that had caused such chaos. Whatever secret Earth held, it was powerful enough to unite the galaxy's greatest enemies. That alone was more terrifying than any weapon. "All ships," he ordered, his voice heavy with defeat, "prepare for hyperspace jump. We're going home." As the Crimson Talon and her escorts began their retreat, Yoon couldn't shake the feeling that they had just witnessed something that changed everything. The galaxy wasn't what he thought it was, and humanity, sleeping peacefully on their blue world, was far more important than anyone had ever imagined. The massive fleet remained in position till Yoon's ships had completely left the system. Only then did they begin their own withdrawal, disappearing into hyperspace as silently as they had come. Earth continued its slow rotation, secret safe for another day. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had turned into complete chaos. Delegates screamed at each other in a dozen different languages, while holographic displays showed the massive fleet movements around Earth. Panic filled the ancient chamber as species that hadn't spoken in centuries suddenly found themselves working together to contain what they all feared was about to become a galactic disaster. Then the air in the center of the chamber began to shimmer. A low hum filled the space as quantum particles danced and swirled, forming a pillar of pure energy. The arguing delegates fell silent as the transmission stabilized, revealing a figure that made even the eldest beings in the galaxy bow their heads in respect. Elder Gon of the First Empire stood before them. His form flickering between dimensions, he was ancient beyond measure, his species among the first to achieve interstellar travel when the galaxy was young. His body was tall and thin, covered in robes that seemed to be made of starlight itself, but it was his eyes that commanded attention. Deep wells of knowledge that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. "You fools!" Gon's voice echoed through the chamber like thunder, carrying the weight of 7 million years of memory. "You absolute fools have nearly doomed us all." Ambassador Joran tried to speak, but Gon's presence was overwhelming. The elder's form grew more solid as his anger increased, filling the chamber with an energy that made the walls themselves tremble. "Silence, Gon," commanded, and every being in the chamber obeyed. "You want to know why we avoid Earth? Why every empire, every species, every civilization in this galaxy treats that small blue world like a sleeping dragon? Let me tell you what your precious archives don't contain. Let me tell you about the day the universe nearly ended." Gon raised his hand, and holographic images began forming in the air around him. Star maps from 7 million years ago, showing a galaxy that looked completely different from the one they knew today. "When my people first built ships capable of crossing the void between stars, we thought we were pioneers. We believed we were. The first to claim the galaxy as our home. How wrong we were. The star map changed, showing thousands of worlds connected by glowing trade routes. Ships moved peacefully between systems, carrying goods and knowledge across impossible distances. We found a galaxy already half colonized by a species that called themselves the predecessors. They were humanity's ancestors, though they bore little resemblance to the primitive beings you see on Earth today. They had mastered technology that we could barely comprehend, ships that traveled between dimensions, cities that floated in space without any visible support, weapons that could reshape matter at the atomic level. The images showed magnificent cities among the stars, massive space stations that dwarfed entire planets, and beings that looked remarkably human but moved with grace that suggested they had evolved far beyond their origins. But they were peaceful, Gon continued, his voice carrying a note of bitter irony. Traders, explorers, builders. They welcomed us when our crude ships limped into their systems. They shared their knowledge freely, helped us develop better technology, treated us like equals, even though we were clearly inferior. The hologram shifted to show first contact between Gon's people and the predecessors. The scene was peaceful, almost beautiful, two species meeting in friendship among the stars. We thought them soft, weak. Their ships carried no weapons we could detect. Their worlds had no military installations. They spoke of art and philosophy. While we dreamed of conquest, Gon's form flickered as rage filled his ancient voice. Coalition formed among the younger species. The Udak provided the muscle. My people contributed the technology. The Void Hunters offered their dimensional warfare expertise. Dozens of civilizations joined together with one goal: to claim the predecessors' territory for ourselves. Holographic display showed the massive war fleets gathering, weapons charging, armies preparing for what they thought would be an easy victory. We struck simultaneously across 50 star systems. Thousands of warships dropped out of hyperspace around predecessor worlds. We demanded their surrender, expecting them to beg for mercy. The scene that followed was unlike anything the Council had ever witnessed. As the attacking fleets opened fire, the predecessor cities simply ... vanished. Not destroyed. It's not damaged. They just flickered out of existence like someone had turned off a light switch. They didn't fight back, not in any way we understood. No return fire, no defensive measures, no desperate pleas for peace. They simply sent one message to every ship in our coalition: you have chosen violence. We choose sleep. Remember this moment, for it will be your last peaceful one. Gon's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire chamber. Every predecessor world went dark simultaneously. Not destroyed, dark. As if the entire species had simply decided to stop existing. Thought we had won the fastest war in galactic history. The Elder's form became more solid as his memories focused on what came next. For 3 days, we celebrated. We landed on their worlds, explored their empty cities, marveled at technology we couldn't understand. Then the response began. Holographic display showed what happened next, and several delegates in the chamber screamed in terror. Stars began dying. Not naturally, not from age or collapse. They were being harvested. Their energy was somehow being channeled across impossible distances, feeding weapons that should not have been able to exist. Our fleets would simply vanish. One moment 1,000 ships would be in formation, the next there would be empty space. Where they had been. Images showed entire solar systems being reorganized. Planets moved from orbit to orbit like pieces on a game board. Fleets of coalition ships found themselves trapped in spatial anomalies that bent the laws of physics into impossible shapes. Reality itself was being rewritten, Gon continued, his voice filled with the terror of those ancient memories. Our scientists went insane trying to understand what was happening. Physics stopped working the way it should. Time flowed backward. In some sectors, forward in others, ships would find themselves fighting their own future selves. The hologram showed the systematic destruction of the coalition forces. It wasn't battle, it was artistry. The predecessors dismantled entire civilizations with precision that suggested they were barely trying.
80% of our coalition
Was extinct within 6 months. Entire species wiped out so completely that even their home stars were extinguished. Worlds that had existed for billions of years were simply removed from the universe as if they had never been. Gon's form flickered as he reached the end of his tale. Those of us who survived received one final message from the predecessors. It was delivered simultaneously to every remaining ship, every surviving world, every living member of our coalition. The elder's voice became hollow, ancient beyond measure. We return to sleep. Our children will inherit the stars, but they will not remember us. They will grow and learn and discover the universe on their own, as all species should. But know this, we do not truly sleep. We wait. Wake us again, and there will be no warnings. There will be no mercy. There will be no survivors. The chamber remained silent for long moments as the implications sank in. Finally, Delegate Voss of the Crystalline Collective found his voice. The humans on Earth. They're the children the message spoke of? Gon nodded slowly. Seated on that world by their ancestors before the response ended, given no memory of their heritage, no knowledge of their true power, they were meant to develop naturally, to become whatever they were going to become without the burden of their predecessors' legacy. But they're so primitive, Ambassador Joran protested. They can barely reach their own moon. Elder Gon's laugh was bitter and cold. That's what we thought about their ancestors. Right up until the moment our civilizations ceased to exist. The quantum transmission began to fade as Gon prepared to end the connection. You want my advice, Council? Pray that Admiral Yoon's little scouting mission didn't wake anything up. Pray that humanity remains ignorant of what they really are. Because if they remember, if their sleeping guardians decide that the galaxy has forgotten the lesson of 7 million years ago, ... Gon's form flickered one last time. This time, there won't be any survivors to tell the story. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in absolute silence. In that silence, every delegate understood that they were not the masters of the galaxy they had believed themselves to be. They were simply the latest species to learn why some doors should never be opened, some secrets should never be revealed, and, somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, ancient systems were beginning to stir. Admiral Yoon's hands trembled as he gripped the command chair. Watching the massive alien fleet surrounding his small force, sweat dripped down his face despite the cool bridge temperature. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. Every major power in the galaxy united for a single purpose. All ships, immediate withdrawal, he ordered, his voice cracking slightly, maximum speed to hyperspace jump point. The Crimson Talon and her 2 escort vessels turned away from Earth, their engines burning bright as they accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, the enormous alien fleet maintained their protective formation around the blue planet. Weapons still trained on the retreating ships. Admiral Lieutenant Quan called out from the sensor station, his young face pale with terror. I'm reading something impossible. Energy signatures are appearing all across the galaxy. Massive ones, sir. They're everywhere. Yoon moved to the sensor display, his blood freezing as he saw the readings. Across thousands of light years, ancient installations were coming online. Structures that had been hidden for millions of years were suddenly blazing with power. Many? Yoon asked, though he dreaded the answer. Hundreds of thousands, sir. Maybe millions. They're positioned around every major star system, every trade route, every inhabited world. It's like someone built a galaxy-wide defense network and we just never saw it. Captain Day joined them at the sensor station, his scarred face. Grim, sir. Look at this energy output. Each one of these installations is producing more power than our entire home fleet. What are they? The answer came from an unexpected source. A transmission cut through their communications, bypassing every security protocol they had. The voice was ancient, mechanical, speaking in perfect galactic standard despite being impossibly old. Admiral Yoon of the Talon Fleet, you have triggered a level Omega response. Ancient protocols are now active. Return to your home system immediately and await further instructions. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving the bridge crew staring at each other in shock. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Han sat in her observatory office, staring at her computer screen with growing confusion. She had been tracking gravitational anomalies for her research project when something impossible began happening. "This can't be right," she muttered, adjusting her glasses and running the calculations again. Massive gravitational distortions were appearing throughout the solar system, not natural ones. These showed clear geometric patterns. Artificial structures of incredible size. Her radio telescope data was even more disturbing. Structured signals were coming from the galactic core, complex mathematical patterns that seemed to pulse with intelligence. But every time she tried to analyze them closely, she got severe headaches. It was as if the patterns were too complex for human minds to process. Outside her window, the night sky looked normal. But high above Earth's atmosphere, something extraordinary was happening. Defense platforms the size of continents were materializing, their surfaces rippling as cloaking systems that had hidden them for millions of years finally shut down. Arrays capable of cracking moons swung into position, targeting systems locking onto every approaching object in the solar system. Sensor networks that spanned entire star systems activated for the first time in eons, their invisible beams scanning across light years of space. Each installation was connected to the others through quantum entanglement, creating a communication system faster than light itself. On his flagship bridge, Admiral Yoon watched in horror as his sensors detected the awakening defenses around Earth. Sir Quan reported, his voice barely controlled. "I'm counting over 10,000 installations just in Earth's local space. Energy readings are off the charts. These things could destroy our entire fleet without even powering up their main weapons." "How did we miss them?" Day whispered. "How did the entire galaxy miss them?" The answer became clear as they reached the hyperspace jump point. The installations hadn't been missed. They had been perfectly hidden, existing in dimensions slightly offset from normal space. Only now, as they activated, were they becoming visible to conventional sensors. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions continued around the clock. The appearance of the ancient defense network had thrown every civilization into panic. Trade routes were being abandoned, military fleets were retreating to home systems, and diplomatic communications buzzed with terror and confusion. "Emergency decree," announced the council speaker, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Earth is hereby designated a level Omega. Protected world. Any vessel approaching within 10 light years requires unanimous council approval and the blessing of all elder races. This order supersedes all previous territorial claims and trade agreements." The decree was transmitted across the galaxy within hours, carried by quantum communicators that reached every inhabited system. For the first time in galactic history, an entire world was declared absolutely off-limits to all spacefaring civilizations. Dr. Han made her own discovery that night. While reviewing deep space photographs taken by the Hubble telescope's successor, she noticed something that made her coffee cup slip from her fingers. Around distant stars, structures were becoming visible that had never been there before. Thousands of them, geometric shapes that defied easy description. They pulsed with faint light, as if something vast and ancient was slowly opening its eyes after an impossibly long sleep. She printed out the images and spread them across her desk. Each photograph showed the same thing: artificial constructs of incredible size positioned around stars throughout the galaxy. Some were rings that encircled entire solar systems. Others were geometric arrays that stretched across light years of space. All of them were now glowing with the same soft light, like a network of lanterns being lit across the cosmos in the deepest reaches of space. Far from any inhabited world, the most ancient installations were stirring. These were not defense platforms or sensor arrays. They were something far more significant. Command centers built by minds that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. Weapon systems designed by intelligence beyond current. Understanding ran full diagnostics for the first time in 7 million years. Each installation was capable of rewriting the laws of physics in local space, moving planets like chess pieces, making entire fleets simply cease to exist. Deep within the quantum cores of these ancient machines, a consciousness older than most civilizations began to stir. It had been sleeping, waiting, dreaming of a time when its children might need protection again. That time had apparently come. Across the galaxy, automated systems began transmitting status reports through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. The reports were simple. Network active, children safe. Watching resumed. In response, that ancient consciousness whispered a single word into the quantum foam that connected all things. Soon. Admiral Yoon's fleet finally reached their home system 3 days later. They were met by emergency broadcasts, warning all ships to avoid the Sol sector completely. The Talon fleet's brief scouting mission had changed everything. As Yoon filed his report, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's age of innocence was ending. Somewhere on that blue world, people were beginning to ask questions about the strange lights in the sky, the gravitational anomalies, the mysterious signals from space. Soon they would want answers. And when they found them, the galaxy would learn whether the sleeping guardians would continue to protect their children, or whether humanity would finally remember what they truly were. The ancient network continued to grow brighter each day, like a vast eye-opening after an endless dream. And in that light, every civilization in the galaxy saw the same message. The predecessors' children were still protected. The lesson of 7 million years ago had not been forgotten, and this time, there would be no warnings. The end.